So Joel, great to see you again. Thanks for taking the time. Productronica's always an exciting time, but it feels now much more of a global show and a chance to kind of get to grips with global trends. What have you seen? What have you been talking to people about since you got here?
Yeah, it is interesting, Phil, and by the way, great to see you again. It's been a little bit, and yeah, I think the world has changed a little bit. I think we would all agree in the last 4 years, certainly since COVID, and now coming out of it completely. I think this is safe to say the first round of trade shows now, probably starting with Apex of last year, but with that has come a lot of just interest and initiatives with regards to new technology, right? The whole EV battery, green energy, solar, the CHIPS Act, certainly, the semiconductor, AI driving a lot of that. So again, just a lot of things going on now that weren't necessarily going on to the degree that they were pre-COVID, right? And not that there's necessarily a relationship there, but as we've evolved, that seems to be the direction that we're going, and certainly again, all things that were mechanical are now becoming electronic, and so the trend continues. But those seem to still be the topics, and I think they will be. The whole cloud processing, the need for more horsepower. All of that.
Yeah, more and more technology, and that's exciting. That means more opportunities. The opportunities seem to be shifting around the world a little bit thanks to geopolitics, which we find ourselves in super uncertain times. That's having a positive effect in the US. It seems to also be having a positive effect in Europe. We'll get onto how maybe there's a little bit of a change in confidence levels over recent months later, but to really manage that renaissance, one of the things people keep telling me is we're struggling to get people, we're struggling to get enough talent in, and we're looking to digital transformation suppliers like Co-Young to help us out on that. How can you do that?
Yeah, now that is certainly something I think that is a direct byproduct to some degree of the COVID phenomenon, right? We had at least in America, what we call the Great Resignation, where people just kind of dropped out of the labor market, decided that they didn't need to do what they were doing for the money they were making, and they started their own business, and cottage industries were formed, et cetera, et cetera. Bottom line, we're in a situation right now where it's very difficult to get people, as you said, and I think again that's something that is universal. I hear it all over the world. Not even just in the Americas. So, with this whole initiative to reshore, as you said, or nearshore, and all that work that was once being designed in Europe and America, going to China and Asia, now coming back to those locations, we need people. We need. Or we need at least infrastructure to be able to support what's going to be done here. And with that, I think tied into the lack of ability to find people and understanding that we don't see this next wave coming in masses, we need to automate, right? We need to automate, and I think we need to automate, and we're seeing automation now come to fruition in ways that it's very different than what we experienced in the past. It's not just robotic arms in a car manufacturing facility. It's really next level artificial intelligence coming to the rescue in some cases, where we're now able to, through the computing power we have today, which we didn't have years ago, realize a lot of these capabilities and create tools that are just simply less reliant on human intervention, and that's going to be the key. I think if you don't have people, you have to replace with some form of automation. AI now is driving that next wave of automation as we see it, specifically in this industry, but I think even on a broad scale, in manufacturing in general, in high labor cost areas, for sure.
Yeah, and I think everywhere, talent is an issue everywhere. What I found really interesting when I've been lucky enough to visit people that are using your equipment is they're able to leverage the K-Smart software to allow less people to manage more lines, less people to flag issues on more SPI, AOI machines, and hence do a better job there. But they're also able to leverage the simplicity of the system to get new people onto those lines and trained up really quickly. That's become something that is really important in your offering.
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle, right? So certainly building in less reliance on human intervention by structuring the software across the board for common interfaces, for basically the ability for someone that doesn't have advanced training in all cases to be able to look at a dashboard and know what happened. And not only look at a dashboard and know what happened and what needs to be fixed, but be able to look at data from multiple lines, multiple machines in a core cell, let's say. So now we can utilize a single individual where in the past it may have taken 5 people to do the same thing, right? And then we certainly apply the next level of all of that being, again, back to the artificial intelligence for auto programming per se. So we are now able to do in an automatic fashion what was very manual not so many years ago, right? And again, the end result there is less reliance, less need for people that are advanced from a capability perspective to be able to do those kinds of things. And then the final step there, the final piece to that is really, I don't know that we'll ever eliminate the human element altogether, but certainly coming up with tools, coming up with systems that allow for self-correction, auto-correction, as opposed to information being passed from machine to machine, such in the line of what CFX is typically doing, where, okay, I have the data, but now somebody still needs to do something. Somebody needs to go turn it up to fix that. Now we introduce the artificial intelligence piece, which has the capability to completely self-correct on the fly without that human intervention. So again, continuing to reduce and automate at the same time.
Yeah, and reduce that dependence on labor. Last question before we wrap up. There's a little bit of nervousness in the market at the moment. I mean, we've been talking all year about a downturn and one hasn't come. There seems to be a bit of a correction going through the industry's order book, I think mainly because of a glut of inventory as people kind of ordered far out with the component crisis. What are you seeing in discussion with your customers, and how's that making you feel about 2024?
Well, it's not going to be a rapid fire growth year. Let's put it that way. I think the consensus is, for the most part, and this will, we're a little bit. The acid test will be whether our industry is insulated from some of these external factors because of the kind of products we're building and the need for those products. But we're certainly seeing something that is projected to be, let's just say, flat, minimal growth. Yeah, very similar to this year, which wasn't a terrible year, certainly for us. It's just that everything's measured to last year, which was pretty phenomenal for almost everyone, right? So again, we're in the Americas poised to have our second best year in our history, in our Co-Young America history, but it's not last year, right? So again, I feel good about what we've been able to do from that perspective, but it seems that it's a combination of interest rates. I think at least the fear of recession seems to be subsiding a bit, at least in the Americas, and I think maybe here in Europe as well. But again, there's, as you say, geopolitical factors. We have 2 wars going on now. We have all kinds of things, and I mean, there's really I don't know that there's ever been a point in our history and time when it's been completely smooth sailing. So we've always had to deal with this. But yeah, I think demand is down because of interest rates in certain areas. We see EV interest in the Americas waning just a little bit. So we'll see where that goes. Again, is it interest rates? Is it because incentives are running out? And there's a lot of reasons why people. Is it infrastructure, readiness? But again, the bottom line is, I don't know that I'm overly concerned that we're going to have contraction. I just don't know that we're going to have significant growth.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. And I think, from a point of view of a capital equipment supplier, but also from a point of view of an EMS supplier, it's a year to consolidate. It's a year to take advantage of the growth we've had and maybe focus a bit more on operational excellence and efficiency. And God damn it, that's something you can help with.
And that's another topic this week, especially with conversations with, some of our large EMS customers, but it trickles down. Productivity. We have to figure out a way to improve productivity with the people and the systems that we have, right? So we're repositioning, we're training, we're doing everything we can to get more out of what we have, as opposed to spending a lot of money on what would otherwise, potentially fix that. We all have to get smarter. Operational excellence, right? So again, our position here is how do we assist in that, right? With that ongoing effort to reduce the reliance on human intervention, to make things more intuitive. But you're absolutely right. That initiative, improving productivity, getting more out of what we have. There's excess capacity out there because of everything we just talked about, at least for the time being. So we see that as being really a focal point for our customers in 2024. So understanding that they're not going to see significant growth, how can we assist with that and still potentially grow ourselves, have a win-win, right? Even in a situation that's not seeing significant investment in new lines around the globe. That'll come, we hope, in 2025 after all this, as you said, kind of this correction settles out.
So opportunities down the line, and I think I absolutely see that opportunity for you to help in that process, and particularly in the Americas. I see a lot of success in those middle tier companies. They're seeing not so much reshoring, but they're seeing less go offshore, so they're in a good spot. Joe, always a pleasure to chat. I guess next time we'll be in California, somewhere near Disneyland apparently.
And if next year goes like this year, it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah,
it's just amazing.
Thanks for your time.
Great to spend time with you, Phil.